Hi everyone, this is Sarah from SRS Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to make this Loomigurumi Amigurumi Kawaii style teacup. He or she matches perfectly with the teapot I made. What you'll need for this design is about a total of 433 bands. The pot itself is 319. The handle is 23 and the drink is around 91. You'll also need a pair of eyes. I'm using 6mm safety eyes that I got off of Amazon, or some bands, and a band for the mouth, a hook, a stitch marker, and some stuffing to put inside. And some scissors if you're going to clip the mouth. So let's get started. We are going to start our project by making a magic ring. And how we do that is we take one band on our hook and we wrap it around 3 times. So we have 3 loops. We're going to pull through 6 bands for our magic ring. So take a band on the end of your hook, slide it on. The band goes back on the hook, and I like to pinch those 3 loops tight. And then you're going to make a slip knot, pulling one end through the other. And you're going to repeat this process. So we're going to take our hook, we're going to push it back through those 3 bands. We're going to make sure you get it on all 3. You're going to pull a band through those 3 bands and make a slip knot. Pulling it through the slip to make a slip knot, and then pulling it through the first band to attach it. And we're just going to continue with all 6 bands. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that is our first. That's our magic ring. And if you didn't count your bands and you just want to make sure you have this same amount of stitches that you need, and you can use this at any time when you're doing this hook only design, is you count 1 is on the hook, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So since this 6th one is where we started, that's where I'm going to put my hook in. In our second round, we are going to pull through 12 bands. We're going to be increasing from 6 to 12. So here's my first band. I'm going to pull it up and through, back on my hook, and here I'm going to put my stitch marker because this is the first stitch of the round. We're going to be increasing, so we're going to be putting our hook right back in where we started in the first stitch, and we're going to put a second stitch in there. And then we're going to move to the second stitch on our magic ring, and we're going to add 2 bands. So that would be 3 and 4. We're going to move to the third one where we're going to put 5 and 6. And then 7, 8. Oops. 9 and 10. Oops, I keep not getting both pieces of the stitch. And then the last one is 11 and 12. And the next place we can put our hook to continue is right under where the stitch marker is. So that means we're back at the beginning. The next row is row number 3, and for this row we are going to also increase up to 18. So we'll be doing 1 single stitch and then an increase. So here's our first single. Now, so that was a single, now we're going to do an increase. And then we're just going to repeat that pattern all the way around. Single increase, single increase. This is the increase. 1, 2, single, and then an increase, and then a single, and then an increase, a single, an increase, and then a single, our last set, and then an increase. And we're making the bottom of our teacup, we need to make it even bigger. So we're gonna put our hook in where we started the last row. We're gonna do row number 4. We're going from 18 to 24, so we'll be doing 2 singles and an increase. So here's our first stitch and our second stitch, and then an increase. So that's 2 stitches in one spot. So one, starting the pattern over, 1 stitch, 1 stitch, increase. Single, second single, and then an increase. Single, or 1 stitch, and then a second stitch, and then we do the increase. Single, and another one, and then our increase. Last set, single, single, and then in our last stitch of the round we're doing our increase. 1 and 2. And that is the end of row 4. Now we're about to start row 5. We are going to do 1 row around of 24 stitches. But this is the bottom of the teacup. We need to start curving our teacup up. So we are going to do it, put our stitch in the front loop only. And this is going to make it curve. We're changing direction of how the crochet is going. So you just stick it in the front loop and continue just like you'd done before with your stitches. It's just instead of putting it in both loops, we're just putting it in the front. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and our last stitch here is 24. And now we're back to the beginning. And you can see how our angle has changed. Now this row is facing upwards. Now we're going to do another increase to put us up to 30. Now in this teacup I have some rows of color together by the face, and I sort of tried to match this one. And this is the teapot I made in my last video, and I'm gonna make the one I'm making now. I'm gonna make to match these colors because I thought it'd be cute to have two matching ones. So if you want to add color, you might want to do your first row of color now. There'll be a place for about 3 rows if you want to do, you know, alternate. Total, we're going to be having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows here. So if you want to do, you know, every other one in the color, now is a chance to switch that up. I'm just going to go ahead and do another row of white for right now. So how we're going to start is we're going to bring this up to 30. So we're going to be doing 3 singles and then an increase to bring us up to 30. So here's our first stitch. Oops. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, and now an increase. 1, 2. So we're starting the pattern all over again. 3 stitches and then an increase. 1, 2, 3, and now an increase. So that's 1 and 2. 3 and an increase. 1, 2, 3, and an increase. So we're going to put 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to increase our next stitch. So that's 1 and 2. Starting over again. 3, 1, 2, 3, and now we increase. 1 and 2. So we're going to do 3 and an increase. 1, 2, 3, and now our last stitch is that increase. Okay. Now we need to make our teacup continuous bigger. So we're going to do 5 more rows of 30 stitches. So you're just going to do 5 more rows. So we've got a row here. This is 1. You need to do 5 more. I'm going to pause the video and I'll meet you back when you're done. Okay, welcome back. Here we are after 5 more rows. And our next steps is we're going to be putting our face on and adding our handle. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out. I'm going to put my stitch marker through the 3 loops of bands that are currently on my hook, so I can take my hook out because I'm going to need it. And I don't want my hook like flapping around and maybe losing some stitches. So right now we're going to add our face. And I am going to use these 6mm safety eyes that I got off Amazon. And if you don't have safety eyes, you can use beads, or you can use bands, and I'll show you how you do that. So you just position the safety eyes and then pop down. I think for just a few dollars, I got a bag of like, it's 50 eyes and 50 backs, and I still have plenty because you're only using 2. And actually, if you use them and you take your thing apart, you can still reuse them, because even though the back is on, you can still pop it through since the bands are flexible. I've done that before. Okay, so there are my eyes. If you don't have eyes, I'll show you how to make them. So you're going to take 2 bands, you're going to wrap it around your hook, and then you're going to pinch them all and wrap them around again. You'll take 1 band and you'll pull everything on your hook through it. So all of those wrapped bands are now on your hook. You're going to want to find where you would like to put your eye. You put your hook up through and pull this first end down. And then you stick your hook up again in the spot where you would like them together and pull it down through. And then you just make a slip knot. And that will give you an eye. I'm going to use 1 black band for my mouth. So I'm going to take a band, I'm going to clip it. And I'm going to find a place to slip it in through the holes. If you've watched my videos, you know I love these little smiles. There's lots of other ways to do mouths and smiles, so you can just choose whatever way you liked best. I think that's a pretty wide grin. I like that. We'll do that. I usually make my smiles smaller. So you take the 2 ends of the bands from the inside and you're just going to make just to knot it. And I like to put my knot at the end, so I have lots of wiggling room for playing with my smile. And I just love that. Perfect. So now we have the face on, we're going to make the handle. And how we're going to do that is we are going to chain 12 bands. So take a band, put it on your hook, and loop it around once like a cap band. We're going to pull through 11 bands. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and one more is 11. So that's a total chain of 12. And what we're going to do is we are going to make a slip stitch chain. So we're taking with our hook, we're putting our hook through the first chain from the hook. So there's 1 on the hook and we're putting it through the next one. We're going to pull a band up through what's on where our hook was through, and then we're going to pull it through what's on our hook, put it back on, and make a slip knot. We're going to move to the next chain, the next spot from the hook. We're going to pull a band through. We're going to pull it through what's on the hook, back on, slip knot. And we're just going to continue down doing this 11 times. So pull it through, back on, slip knot. And this is going to give us a little handle. Last time on my teapot I made a glitter handle, and the glitter bands, they don't hold their shape as well as the opaque ones, so I thought I would change on this one. keep going down to the end. Pretty simple way to make a handle or any other thin piece you might need for a project. Here's our last stitch. Last one we're doing is in the cap band. So we're pulling it through everything. We're making a slip knot. And on the last stitch, we're going to pull the slip knot tight. And we're going to now add it to our teacup. So I'm going to position it here on the side. I want it to go from the bottom all the way up to the top, but not quite to the top. So I'm going to just do it, you know, even from my face. So you're going to find where you want. Take your hook, pull through the band. And you want to pull it so it comes through a little bit. We're going to pull it back down. I just wanted to let you see, I'm going to pull it so it comes all the way through. And to secure it so it doesn't flop out, I'm going to put my hook through the last set of stitches, and I'm going to attach that to the bottom on the inside, because I want to make sure that it doesn't come loose. So I'm just going to pull it through and make a slip knot on that. See, it's attached there. And then I'm just going to bring the top up and do the same exact thing. So I'm going to stick my hook through the top where I want it. I'm going to put my hook through the end here. I'm going to pull it through. And now I'm just going to secure it behind some bands. And this is going to be inside and it's stuffed, so it's fine that we have all these extra things hanging out. It's nice not to have to do the cleanup on the things that are stuffed. So there is our handle. Now we are going to start, we're going to put our drink on the top of our teacup. So I'm going to use some cocoa bands, sort of like it's a dark drink of coffee or something. And you can actually add little white beads if you want, or something like that to make it look like hot chocolate if you don't like coffee or tea. So we're going to put our hook back in where our stitch marker is. So this is where we were started here. So for our beverage, since it goes flat across the top, we're not going to go up. We're going to go sideways. And how we change our angle again is by doing in the front loop only. So we are going to do a row around of 30 just through the front loops. I'm going to put my stitch marker on our first stitch so I remember where we are. And here I'm just going to go through the front loops. Front loop only all the way around. It'll be 30 stitches. Still just going all the way around. I'm being very quiet. I don't know if you can hear the rain, but it's raining. Which was interfering with my lighting. But we're always happy for rain. Since where I live, it doesn't rain all that often, so we never complain about rain. We desperately needed rain because we have very bad pollen also where I live, and everyone's been suffering from allergies, and hopefully it'll wash some of the pollen off the trees and off the cars. Everyone's car is like covered in green pollen. I didn't say, but this was row number 12. And it's 30 stitches around in your drink color and the front loops only. Now we're back to the beginning. So that's going to give us this little angle where it goes. It's going to go across the, you know, to close the top. Now we're going to start decreasing. We're going to be going from, and this is row 13 we're about to start. We're going to be going from 30 stitches to 24 stitches. We are going to do 3 singles and then a decrease. So here's our first one. Putting the stitch marker back on. So guy keeps getting in my way. 2. And then 3. And now we're going to decrease. So to do that, we put the next stitch on our hook. We're going to hold it with our finger and we're going to grab the next stitch. So we're putting these 2 stitches together as one. And that is your decrease. You pull a band through both of them. And we're going to repeat this little process around. 1, 2, 3, and then the decrease. Take the next stitch, take the next one, and then put a second one on. Pull one band through the entire thing. 1, 2, 3, and then the decrease. Single, 2, 3, and then a decrease. So we're grabbing 2 stitches and pulling it through. Again, 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease. Again, 1, 2, 3, and now a decrease. Our last 2 stitches. 1, 2. And now we are back to our beginning again. Row number 14, we are going to continue decreasing. We're going from 24 to 18, so we're going to be doing 2 stitches and a decrease. So here's our first one. Putting our stitch marker back on. 2, and then a decrease. So we're grabbing the next 2 stitches that are in the row. Single, 1. Keep calling it single, but I really need to say 1. Oops. 2. So 2 stitches and a decrease. Two stitches. So 1, and then the next 2, oops, and then a decrease. One, 2, decrease. One, 2, decrease. One, 2, and then our last 2 stitches is a decrease. We're almost done. Yay. I put my hook back in. We're going to do a couple more accessory pieces right now. So I'm going to take my stitch marker off. I'm going to put it through what's on my hook and secure that so I can have my hook out. And what we're going to do is we are going to add a rim on the bottom. So it gives it a nice little place to stand up, and it gives it, you know, some detail. We did this on our little teapot. I'm going to use pink bands. And you can see here on the edge where we did that front loop only row, which was row 5. So this is where we're going to attach it, and we're going to do a slip stitch row. So you can pretty much start anywhere you want. I'm going to take my hook and put it underneath one of these bands that are sticking up on the ridge. So I'm going to take a band, I'm going to pull it through, I'm going to make a slip knot. Now I'm going to put my hook through the second spot, and I'm going to continue this process. Band on the hook, pull it through the band, through the other band that was on your hook, put the 2 ends of your band back on, make a slip knot. So the hook goes through the stitch. We're pulling it through both bands on the hook, back on, slip knot. And we're just going to continue to do this, pulling your band through both to make the slip knot. And pay attention to what you're doing here, because sometimes when I am doing this stitch, I forget what I'm doing and I start just doing single crochet. So you'll want to make sure you're pulling it through both of those pieces. Single crochet is just such a habit. I'm doing all these Loomigurumi things that my mind goes on auto. I've been trying to think of some things to make on the loom, because my 9-year-old daughter has been saying that there's not enough loom only projects out there. She doesn't like to make bracelets using the hook, and that's what we see a lot of, and she doesn't want to do Loomigurumi. So, but I haven't really been able to come up with anything that was new and different, but I'm always still thinking of things. If you have any ideas, I'd be happy to investigate them. I love rainbow looming, and I want to do it every day. Almost to the end here. Slip knots, slip stitch row. I'm just continuing all around. Oh, that band looks thin. And here is our last one. And then I'm going to attach it, go back in where I made my first stitch, And I'm going to make a slip knot and pull it tight just to attach those two bits. And then I'm going to pull inside this tail. And it can just hang out inside because no one's going to see it inside because we are going to stuff it. Just need to get that tail. Come on. There you go. Hide in there with us. Okay, now we have another slip knot row that we want to do. And that is along the top here so that we have a lip on our cup. So we're going to do the same exact process that we did before. I'm going to use purple. So you're just going to want to find out where you want to start. You're going to stick your hook through, pull your band through, both ends of the band on the hook, slip knot, and then just move over to the next spot and continue that process, making sure you're doing slip knots and not single crochet. And we're just going to go all the way around. And that'll give us a nice little top edge. Not only will it give us a nice top edge, but now the outside of our cup is higher than the inside, making it look like the drink is inside, rather than being right up to the rim and about to spill over. Remember to slip knots, not single crochets. And there'll be 30 stitches in this row because there was 30 around the top before we started decreasing. After this, we just have two more rows of the drink color as we close the top. We rainbow loom a lot at our house. And my daughter hasn't been doing as much since Christmas time, but I try to do some every day because I do enjoy it, and I've always liked arts and crafts, and I do crochet and sewing. But our house, every single room has at least 1 or 2 bands on the floor. And no matter what you do, it's hard to pick them up. But luckily we don't have any little ones. I guess if you had a baby, you might worry that they would choke on a band or something, but my kids are 9 and 7, so I don't have to worry as much about that anymore. But I'm certain that if my son was younger, I would have to worry about it. He liked to explore. Okay, so we're back to the beginning, and I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm going to go under that first stitch, and I'm going to pull a band through and just slip knot it to the end. And I'm just going to grab my hook and pull it through to the inside so that you can't see the tail. So there's our rim, our drink inside. Now, since I already have the hook off, and I'm going to stuff it. So you can use cotton balls. You'd probably only need 4 or 5, or fiber fill, polyfiber fill, or an old pillow. That's what I've been using on all of my projects. Is I had a pillow that I didn't like, that I didn't need, so I just cut it open and I used the stuffing that was inside. So there we go. And you just stuff it any way you like. We're going to put our hook back through where our stitch marker was, and we are going to continue to decrease to close this up. So to do that, we are going to do a row of a single and then a decrease all the way around. So here's our first, our single. Putting our stitch marker back on so we can remember where we were. And then our next stitch is going to be a decrease. Sometimes when you're stuffing and then sewing, crocheting still, the stuffing gets a little bit in your way. So I'm kind of pushing it down as I go around so it doesn't get stuck in my hook. Single. And then a decrease. 1, 2. This will bring us down to the count of 12 from 18. Single. And then a decrease. Single. And then a decrease. Single. Decrease. Single. Broken band. And then a decrease. That puts us back to the beginning. And there we are. So let's do another row of decreasing to close this up. So I'm going to take my hook off, stitch marker off, sorry. Let's do a decrease. So we already have one on our hook. Let's take the next one and we'll decrease it. Put our stitch marker here. We don't really need it on anymore, but I just like to keep track to make sure I'm where I need to be. So we're just going to decrease. We're going to decrease again. Should put us at 6 decreases. Keep just going around, grabbing the next 2. And then we're back at the beginning here. So I'm going to take, for our last stitch, I'm going to put under where we started, and I'm going to make a slip knot to close this stitch up. And then I'm just going to take my hook, I'm going to go inside, and I'm going to grab that tail and pull it in. And our teacup is finished. Not too bad, huh? Our little guy is finished. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, it would be great if you could give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, because that's the best way to find out when my new videos are going to be uploaded. Have a great day and keep looming.